With the McLarens closing the gap to Red Bull and the championship battle intensifying, F1 makes its way to Azerbaijan. This is a track Red Bull have dominated in the past, taking the most constructor wins and Perez taking the most driver wins at the circuit. Will it be redemption day for Red Bull? We'll have to head to the track to find out. But the road to Baku is at a standstill. So you might as well cool those brakes. Tune into the relaxing tones of Traffic Paradise Radio and chill with us for a while.
Nice paradise, like traffic paradise. What is this one?
Hello and welcome to Traffic Paradise Radio. I'm Uno, and joining me today is Kira.
Hi!
How you doing, Kira? Are you excited for this week's race?
Yeah, I'm so excited. I know it's only been 2 weeks since Monza, but it's felt like way too long. I'm so excited for some more action.
Definitely. I'm so excited to watch some racing this weekend. It's going to be exciting. I'm especially excited for a street track. We haven't had one for a little bit, so it's going to be fun because I think there's going to be some chaos, and I love the chaos.
It's about time for some chaos, honestly.
Absolutely.
Again, with the whole no safety car for over 3 months.
Yeah, let's change that statistic very quickly.
Yeah, the street circuits are often lethal. We saw that in Monaco, so we'll probably see that here as well.
Lethal. Okay, we don't want lethal. We just
Not
want
lethal!
slightly problematic.
Okay, lethal for the cars. Lethal for the cars.
Yeah. And for like the hopes and dreams of the mechanics. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Immy is not here today to record with us. However, through the magic of editing, we'll pretend like she is. So let's have a quick hello, Immy.
Hello, Immy.
Hiya.
And that was totally Immy responding as if she were really here. Okay. Nice to see you, Immy. Let us begin with the inaugural Traffic Paradise Radio Prediction Competition Points Championship thing.
We should come up with a better name for that.
Indeed we should, but we will not. In the build-up to Baku, we will be spending some time predicting what is going to happen in the race. So first of all, let's go, Kira. What are your predictions for the podium?
I am going to predict another Norris win. Maybe that's playing it safe. Maybe that's a little bit too safe considering. But the McLaren has just been so consistent. And it seems like McLaren are finally beginning to get that act together in terms of their driver dynamics. They're definitely going to start prioritising Norris more, I hope. Even saying that as an Oscar fan, I think they need to prioritise Norris, so I've got good hopes for him. And then for P2, I'm going to go and put it out there a bit and say Leclerc. He did really, really well in Monza. Absolute tyre whisperer. And Ferrari seem to have brought back a lot of morale to the team recently. So I think Leclerc's got a good chance of getting on the podium, so I'm going to put him in P2. As for P3, I feel like we're going to see something a little bit different, so I'm going to predict Lewis Hamilton for P3. We know that the Mercedes have been good at street circuits. Even last year, when the Mercedes was not up to par with the other cars, Lewis still managed to get P3 at Singapore last year. So I have high hopes for him. I feel like he could get P3 this week, so that's what I'm going to predict.
That's a very interesting prediction, and you'll understand why I say that very soon. Next up, we'll hear from Immy, who has definitely been here the whole time and did not pre-record this.
My predictions for Baku. Now, first of all, I want to brief this. I'm going to get quite conspiratorial, so you're going to have to bear with me. But my P1 and P2, they go together. I'm predicting a Ferrari 1-2. Charles in P1, Carlos in P2. Now, I'm going to tell you a story, okay? And I'm going to sound a bit insane. In 2004, San Marino won a football match, 1-0 to Liechtenstein. This team is the lowest ranked team in like FIFA or something. I don't know. I don't watch enough football, but they're pretty awful. So the F1 race before this happened was the Ferrari victory. And then the F1 race after this happened was the Ferrari one too. Now, here we are, modern day 2024. San Marino won another football match. It was also 1-0 to Liechtenstein. And the F1 race before it, there was a Ferrari victory. So, for this reason, I'm predicting a Ferrari 1 2. And see, I wouldn't get behind this kind of logic, but I saw on the timeline a while ago somebody being like, Spain won the World Cup however long ago, and then an Australian won the next race, and then Spain won the World Cup and Oscar won Hungary. So I'm buying into this just a little bit. And so because this is already a mad podium, now I'm just going to indulge myself and predict Oscar for P3. Oscar isn't great in qualifying, not as good as Lando at least right now, but the Ferraris also don't have qualifying pace. So for this to happen, I'm seeing maybe like Lando and somebody come together at the front. It's like a Monza 2021 or something. I don't know. I don't know. But these are the vibes I'm getting. So I'm putting Oscar in P3.
Kira, what do you think about Immy's prediction?
I think that that's really interesting, honestly. I have no idea how true you're going to be, how correct you're going to be, but we can hope. We have high hopes, and I'm sure that you've made very good predictions.
Yes, that was definitely a prediction. I can definitely say that Immy made a prediction. My predictions are going to be quite similar to yours, Kira. So for P1, I've got Norris. I do also think that McLaren will start to favor him in strategy, in all things, on track, off track. I think it's now or never if they want to win that drivers' championship. So Norris for P1. For P2, I'm going with Charles Leclerc. I think he's had a tremendous run of form lately. And although, yeah, he won the last race, I think that was more a strategy call than it was the car being the better car. I think he just managed his race better, and it allowed him to take a win over a team that really should have had the win in McLaren. I've got him for P2. And for P3, I'm going with Oscar Piastri. I think that the McLaren will still be the strongest car overall at Baku. We'll see how it goes, but I do believe that Lando will have the edge over Oscar this weekend, but that the McLarens overall will have the edge over the rest of the field. That's my P1, P2, P3. What do you think about that, Kira?
I can't believe you've gone for such a similar prediction. Honestly, I was tempted to put Oscar in P3 as well. It's just that I do have quite a lot of faith in the Mercedes as of late. They've really been doing very well. Monza wasn't as great for them, but it wasn't expected to be. They qualified quite low. But before that, they've been doing brilliantly, so I've got hopes. Also, I find it very, very interesting that we haven't predicted any Red Bull podium.
I mean, I think we all know that the Red Bulls at the moment are in a very bad situation. I think it's probably unlikely that they will be getting on the podium. However, as we said in the introduction, Perez has done very well here in the past few years. Look, if there was a track where Red Bull could mount this amazing comeback, it would be a track like this. So we'll see. Maybe we're wrong.
You say that, however, Red Bull typically perform worse on street circuits. We saw that last year. Street circuits were the ones where, sure, Max Verstappen still won, but by much less of a margin compared to the open track races.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. It's just like an odd stat then that they've been the most dominant team at this track, but still struggle on street tracks. For Red Bull's sake, hopefully they can turn things around. But for our sake and our predictions points, hopefully they will not, because then we will do better. Okay.
I do not want another week of getting 0 points. That was not very fun.
No, it's not fun at all. And I'm still at the bottom of the table, even though I got something right last week. I'm still at the bottom of the table, so we can
Ouch.
hope for the best this week. I think your call for Lewis Hamilton is maybe quite good. It might be a track that someone like Oscar struggles at because he hasn't had a lot of experience there compared to the other drivers on the F1 grid. So I think that your call for Lewis P3 might actually bear some fruit for you. So good luck with that.
We can hope. Oscar did put in a very, very good performance at Monaco, though, so really it's all up in the air.
Yeah, we shall wait and see. And on that note, we will really test our odds with the wildcard predictions next. So, Kira, what is your wildcard prediction?
I'm gonna go really out there. This is a very, very bold wildcard prediction. I am predicting that Oliver Behrman is going to score points in that Haas. That's very bold, but I have a lot of faith.
Oh my, that is a bold prediction. Wild card indeed. That is I'm quite shocked by that prediction, and I think if you get it right, that's a brilliant call from your part. Yeah, that's pretty impressive from Ollie Behrman if he manages a points finish in that Haas.
Honestly, I'm just manifesting it.
Yeah, do it. Make it your
Manifest.
thing. It didn't work for me when I tried to keep predicting good things for Yuki, but maybe it will work for Ollie.
We can hope. Oliver seems to have a lot more luck than Yuki, let's say.
Yeah, no, definitely. It will be amazing if he's able to, because then he'll have 100% point scoring finishes in F1 if he
Yeah,
manages to
exactly.
score here. Yeah, which is good. It's better than a lot of drivers.
I know that the Haas is not the Ferrari, but he got P7 in the Ferrari, which is not exactly close to being out of the points. He was very competitive with other drivers, such as the Aston Martins, so I think he's got potential.
Yeah, I do think it's funny though, because when he raced in Saudi Arabia, he made a comment about the Haas that Nico Hulkenberg was driving, in that it was so slow and that the Ferrari was so much faster. Now,
Oh
that
yeah, he
Haas
did.
is faster now than it was back then. But I wonder if that comment's going to come back to haunt him and he's going to realize indeed how slow a Haas is compared to a Ferrari.
I mean, I saw an interview that Gunther Steiner had done, and he did say that Ollie Behrman's in for a reality check.
Absolutely. And if anyone knows about how a Haas can perform, it's Gunther Steiner. So, yeah, let's see.
I still have hope. We have hope.
Yeah. We
Ollie
can hope
Behrman,
for
general
Ollie.
Haas talent, generational talent in the Haas.
There we go. There we go. Next, we will have Immy's wildcard prediction. Immy, take it away.
For my wild card, I'm predicting 2 safety cars. This is kind of tying in with my podium prediction because I'm predicting a lot of shenanigans happening to get 2 Ferraris on the podium. But it's really, we have a 7 race streak without a safety car. It's the longest streak in over 15 years. It's insane. It has to give at some point. It has to give. And it's a street circuit. It's Azerbaijan, tight corners. You know, you're on the track or you're in the wall. There's no way something doesn't happen. And no offense to Franco or Ollie, but we also have 2 relatively rookie drivers to Formula One at least. And I know Ollie's amazing around Baku, but you know, F1 car, not F2 car. So I'm going to see some people in the wall. I think we're going to see it. Not like I want them to be there, but sometimes we need to say hello to the safety car again. I miss her so much.
Wow, what an amazing prediction, Immy. Kira, can you believe that prediction?
Honestly, that's so bold of you, Immy. I can't believe you'd say something like that, but you know, never say never.
And it's such a definite prediction. Kira, what do you think about the specifics of Immy's prediction, Kira?
There are definitely some specifics. They're really cool specifics, and I think that you might be very lucky with those specifics.
Yeah, specifically what though? What aspect of Immy?
You're setting me up now.
Okay. Okay, well,
my
thank you,
God.
Immy, for that prediction. It was certainly wild, and it definitely can be considered a card. So there we go.
God.
Finally, finally, for my wild card prediction, I think that we will have a red flag during qualifying. So in either Q1, Q2, or Q3, I believe there will be a red flag incident. Dun dun dun. What do you think?
I think that's a pretty good prediction to make. Baku, street circuit, very tight walls. I have a very good feeling that somebody's definitely going to crash into the wall. I'd be surprised if we make it through the whole of qualifying with nobody hitting the wall. So that's definitely a fair prediction to make.
Okay, cool. So let's hope it's a great weekend for Uno, and Uno can max out at 10 points because Uno definitely needs the points.
Yes, he does.
So, is there anything else you're particularly looking forward to this weekend? Is there anything else you're excited for? Or perhaps you want to make a non points prediction for the race ahead?
It's been a while since Perez went out in Q1. That's all I'll say.
So, you think a bad weekend for Checo?
I'm not going to say anything. I have nothing against Checo, but he has improved. I have to give it to him. He has improved. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm not going to put anything out there that's going to, haunt his luck, but yeah.
I think it's quite interesting what's been happening with Checo because, yeah, he had a really bad run of form. But like the last couple races, he hasn't finished that much further behind Max. And that's sort of a gap that you would expect between teammates, Like you're not always going to finish exactly behind your teammate. You might finish one or two places behind, and that's kind of normal. I think they have tried to adapt Checo's car to his driving style a bit more. And I think it's helped him. But at the same time, the other teams have surpassed Red Bull. So his improvement is maybe not as noticeable because the Red Bull is not as good anymore.
I was going to say, I feel like it's a little bit too little too late for Checo. Yes, sure, he's got a seat for next year, allegedly, but there's still a lot up in the air about whether he'll be replaced because of the performance clauses in his contract.
Also, on that note, dealing, and it's weird because we haven't really dealt with the Red Bull driver conundrum for a little bit, but Liam Lawson is apparently going to be announced within the coming week or so, or 2 weeks. I believe his contract has to be announced before the 21st of September. That's sort of based on articles I've read. I don't know how accurate those articles are, but that's what I've read in an article or two.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying that.
Yeah, so however that conundrum at Red Bull turns out, the next race essentially, because by Singapore, the end of the Singapore Grand Prix, it's too late. They would have already announced it because I think the Singapore Grand Prix is on the 22nd. So this race is key for Daniel Ricciardo, for Sergio Perez, for Yuki Tsunoda,
Mm.
because it could determine where they drive next year. For Yuki, it could determine whether he drives next to Max in the Red Bull. For Daniel, it could determine whether or not he drives next to Max in the Red Bull or is dropped or is retained by VCarb. For Perez, it could determine whether or not he's dropped for next year. And for Liam, well, Liam just has to sit back and hope for the best because he's either driving for VCarb next year or he's walking to Sauber and begging them for a seat. And look, I think they'd take him. I think he's got a lot of talent, but yeah, it's going to be a very interesting week ahead for the Red Bull decision makers, for Helmut Marko, for Christian Horner, for Laurent Mekies. I think it's a big week ahead for all of them, and they've got to make some very tough decisions. The results of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix are going to be super, super, super important for determining who is on the grid next year.
I think a couple things that are quite clear is that Yuki Tsunoda will not be dropped from VCarb, but it's also unlikely that he will move up. He just does not seem to be in the running for the main Red Bull seat, despite outperforming Ricardo most of the season. And another thing is that Red Bull do not want to let go of Liam Lawson. You can sort of tell from the environment and the atmosphere that Liam Lawson's definitely been a crucial member of the Red Bull development squad, and I would be very shocked if they let him go.
Yeah, look, Liam did an admirable job last year when he filled in for Daniel Ricciardo for those 5 races. Obviously, he excelled at Singapore, where the other Red Bull drivers sort of had very bad quali runs, and so weren't able to start high enough on the grid to do anything major. With regards to Yuki, it's a bit unfortunate because he was impeded on his Q2 fast lap, so he wasn't able to set time. And ironically, he was actually the fastest Red Bull driver that day. His Q1 time was faster than any time any other driver from Red Bull set that entire qualifying session. But doesn't matter because he wasn't able to set a Q2 time. So he lost out there and then got taken out in the race. So he was just a bad race for him in Singapore. But Liam, he was the shining star of Red Bull that weekend. So it's understandable why Red Bull are so keen to retain him. But they're going to have to disappoint someone in doing so. And the question is, there's obviously Checo has been a very good wingman for Max when he needed it. Max likes Checo, and Max is very happy to keep Checo on as his teammate. On the other hand, Red Bull really likes Daniel Ricciardo. They would like to retain him, I'm sure, if they could. So it's a conundrum for them. They really are stuck between a rock and a hard place and a second hard place because they've got to pick between these 4 drivers really, and figure out what to do.
The problem is for Red Bull is that they've got 5 very capable drivers and only 4 seats to fill. They don't want to let one of them go to another team and possibly outperform them. That's the issue. They just got to pick. They have to decide which out of these 5 drivers can they cope with letting go and can they deal without them.
Yuki was approached by other teams before VCarb announced him for 2025. He was approached by at least 2 other teams on the grid. From the reporting, it was 2 midfield teams. So we're talking like Alpine, Haas, Williams, Sauber. And the reason VCarb announced his re-signing so soon was because they didn't want him to go, because he's a key component in that junior Red Bull team or sister Red Bull team. If you don't want to call it, they don't like it to call it junior team anymore. It's weird that Yuki is valued to them and worth retaining, but at the same time is not deemed worthy for Red Bull. It's a bit of an odd situation there. But at the end of the day, it's, they got to make the decisions that make the most sense for them both on and off the track. So you have to assume that they know what they're doing and that they have certain data or certain financial responsibilities or agreements in place with other people that make a Yuki to Red Bull situation untenable for them. So, it is what it is.
Uno, if you were in the position to make that decision, who would you put in Red Bull and who would you put in VCarb? And try not to be biased.
If you accept, and I'm not sure that it is completely agreed upon that Checo has underperformed this year, because I think a lot of it has actually been the car. But if you accept that Checo needs to go, then in my mind, Yuki Tsunoda is the only viable option to put into that seat. First of all, he's been the lead driver at Visa Cash App RB or AlphaTauri for 2 years now and has excelled in that role. He has outscored all of his teammates that he raced with, particularly Nick de Vries and Daniel Ricciardo. Yes, Liam outscored him, but the situations around Liam's time at AlphaTauri were perhaps not 100% revealing of his pace compared to Yuki Tsunoda, because Yuki had a DNF, a DNS, he had a whole bunch of issues that contributed to that head-to-head battle that were in Liam's favor and not in Yuki's favor. But that aside, I think Yuki has proven that he is capable of challenging and racing at the top level. Given that Red Bull has put so much time and money into Yuki Tsunoda's career over the years, it would make zero sense to not promote him and at least see what he's capable of at the head team. With regards to Daniel Ricciardo, I would retain him at Visa Cash App because he's good for sponsors, and I think he would be a very good mentor figure for a younger driver such as Liam Lawson or an Isaac Hadjar later on, or whatever it might be. So for me, I would put Yuki at Red Bull, and I would keep Daniel at VCarb and appoint Liam Lawson to the second VCarb seat and let him sort of be mentored by Daniel Ricciardo. Alternatively, Checo would also be a very good mentor figure in a team like VCarb. So I think the discussion between Checo and Daniel, should either of them be in the Red Bull senior team, I think is misplaced. I think the discussion should be, where can they be of most value to the Red Bull organization? And I think it's in mentoring younger drivers at the junior VCarb team. So that's what I would do.
I think I agree with how you'd lay it out. I do think Yuki definitely deserves at least a shot in the Red Bull. I think the problem is, and one possible reason why they're reluctant to promote Yuki, is that he seems to be very prone to incidents as of late. Especially this season, but also notable last season, he's been in quite a few crashes, more so than his teammates, and it's a little bit concerning when you think about the damages and the World Destructors Championship. Think about how high Perez is, but put Yuki in a faster car. Is he a possible risk for being like that as well? That's my thinking, and that's why they might be reluctant to promote him.
We're going to have to end off pretty soon because we're running out of time. But what I will say is that Yuki's perception of crashing does not actually match the statistics. So if you look at last year in particular, yeah, he had a couple DNFs, and this year, in fact, but they weren't his fault. In Singapore last year, Perez crashed into him, took him out the race. In China this year, Magnussen crashed into him, took him out the race. At Monza this year, Hulkenberg crashed into him, took him out the race. It wasn't really his fault. He had nothing to do with those incidents. The qualifying incident this year where his car went flying, a little bit his fault, but also a problem with the track, you know. So I think as much as I agree with you, there's certain questions around Yuki's abilities, and I understand those questions. I do think that the actual statistics are not as severe as what the perception of Yuki crashing is.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely agree. He does have bad luck with getting into incidents and stuff that aren't his fault. But the problem is, we know from experience that a lot of the teams don't view it that way. They view a crash, a DNF is a DNF. You saw the same thing with other drivers, even to the point of Logan Sargent. There were a couple of his crashes were not his fault, and Williams still definitely used that against him. So it's possible, but it could be one of the many factors in the decision.
Yeah, and we shall have to wait and see what happens in 2025. But that is all the time we have for today. So thank you for tuning in to Traffic Paradise Radio. It looks like the road heading to Baku is finally clear. So enjoy the race. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please make sure to follow us if you're listening on Spotify, or like and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. Have a good rest of your day and night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Say goodbye, Immy.
Bye.
For Peter Buyer, Peter Buyer, I think his name is. Peter. Let's just call him Big Pete.